6 months after Lyra arrived on New Haven, a Valorian ship requested permission to land. The message was formal and cold. A delegation wanted to meet with Lyra about her situation. Jiho felt his stomach tighten when he heard the news. "They want to take you back," he said. It was not a question. Lyra sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. "Probably. The Valorian Empire does not like that I am happy here. It makes them look bad. You do not have to meet with them." "Yes, I do. If I refuse, they will cause problems for the colony. For you, I will not let that happen." The delegation arrived 3 days later. There were 5 of them, all dressed in formal Valorian robes. The leader was a man named Kale. He was tall and elegant with the perfect posture that marked high-caste Valorians. He was also, Lyra remembered, with a bitter taste in her mouth, one of the first men to reject her match in the bride program. The meeting was held in the colony council chamber. Elder Kim Nari presided. Jiho sat beside Lyra, while Taeyang and several other colony leaders filled the other seats. The Valorian stood rather than sat, looking down at everyone else. Kale spoke first, his voice smooth and formal. "We have come to discuss the situation of Miss Lyra. We have received concerning reports about her placement in this colony." "What concerns?" Elder Kim asked. "Miss Lyra is a citizen of the Valorian Empire. She was placed in the Interstellar Bride program due to unfortunate circumstances, but we believe her placement here may not be in her best interests." Lyra felt her jaw tighten. "You can speak to me directly. I am sitting right here." Kale looked at her, his expression carefully neutral. "Of course. Miss Lyra, we have reviewed your case. Your family has struggled with your medical debt. The Empire has decided to forgive this debt if you return home." "Return home to what?" Lyra asked. "To a labor colony? To being hidden away because I am an embarrassment? You would be given a position in data processing. You would have your own quarters. You would be taken care of like a child, or like a broken object that needs to be stored somewhere out of sight." Kale's perfect composure cracked slightly. "You must understand that your situation here is unusual. You are living among humans who cannot possibly understand Valorian needs or culture. You are with a man who already has children and responsibilities. You are a burden to him." Jiho stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. "She is not a burden. Sit down, human. This does not concern you. It concerns me very much. Lyra is my wife. This is her home. You have no right to come here and tell her what she should do." Kale turned to Jiho, and his expression was one of complete disbelief. "You truly do not understand, do you? She is paralyzed. She requires assistance with basic functions. She cannot contribute to your household in the ways a wife should. Why would you burden yourself with this?" The room went very quiet. Lyra felt heat rising to her face, shame and anger mixing together. But before she could speak, Jiho did. "You want to know what Lyra contributes?" Jiho's voice was calm but hard. "She increased our colony's energy efficiency by 34%. She teaches 15 students advanced mathematics and science. She has helped solve engineering problems we struggled with for years. She reads to my daughter every night and taught my son about constellations. She makes my house feel like a home again." He stepped closer to Kale. "But even if she did none of those things, even if all she did was exist, she would still have value, because she is a person. She's intelligent and kind and brave. She traveled to a strange world and built a life here. What have you done that is so impressive?" Kale looked shocked. No one had ever spoken to him like that. "You are being emotional and irrational. This is exactly why humans are considered inferior. You make decisions based on feelings rather than logic." "And you make decisions based on fear," Jiho shot back. "You are afraid that Lyra being happy here makes your entire culture look cruel. You are afraid that other disabled people might see her and realize they deserve better. You are afraid that humans are kinder than you are." Another Valorian in the delegation, a woman named Isla, made a small sound. Kale glared at her and she went quiet. Elder Kim Nari stood up. "I think we have heard enough. Kale, you came here to offer Lyra a choice. She has the right to make that choice herself." "Lyra, what do you want to do?" Lyra had been silent through most of the confrontation, but now she guided her chair forward. She looked at Kale, at the other Valorians, at the face of the culture that had rejected her. "When I was injured," she said slowly, "everyone told me my life was over. They said I would never be worth anything because my legs did not work. They said no one would want me. They said I should be grateful for whatever scraps I was given. I believed them for a long time." She paused, gathering her thoughts. Then I came here. And a man I had never met said yes when 147 others said no, not because he felt sorry for me, but because he read my words and thought I had something to offer. His children did not see a broken woman. They saw someone who could teach them about stars. This colony did not see a burden. They saw an engineer who could help them. Lyra looked directly at Kale. You taught me that my value came from my appearance and my physical abilities. But humans taught me that my value comes from my mind, my heart, and what I choose to do with them. You taught me that I was broken. But they taught me that I was just injured, and that is not the same thing at all. Her voice grew stronger. You want me to come back to Valorian space? To what? To a small room where I do data entry and never see the sky? To a place where people look away when I enter a room? To a culture that measures worth by perfection? No, thank you, but no. I choose to stay here. This is my home now. These are my people. The delegation was silent. Kale looked like he had been slapped. You would choose humans over your own kind? I would choose kindness over cruelty. I would choose possibility over limitation. I would choose a family that wants me over a culture that tolerates me. Yes, I choose humans. I choose this life. Kale opened his mouth to argue, but Isla stepped forward. She was younger than Kale, maybe 30, with nervous eyes. May I speak? She asked quietly. Kale looked annoyed, but nodded. Isla turned to Lyra. I have a degenerative condition. It affects my muscles. It gets worse slowly. I have hidden it for years because I am afraid of what will happen when people find out. I am afraid of becoming like you were, rejected, invisible. She took a breath. But seeing you here, seeing that you are happy and valued and living a full life, it gives me hope. Could I also apply to come to the human colony? Could I find what you found? The question hung in the air. Kale looked furious. Isla, you cannot be serious. I am completely serious. Isla looked at Elder Kim Nari. Would New Haven accept someone like me? Elder Kim smiled gently. We would need to discuss it with the colony, but I believe we would welcome you. We value people who are brave enough to seek a better life. The delegation left shortly after, angry and defeated. Kale did not say goodbye to Lyra, but Isla stayed behind for a few minutes, talking quietly with Elder Kim about the application process. That evening, Jiho found Lyra on the back porch looking at the stars. He sat beside her. You were very brave today, he said. I was terrified. Brave and terrified are not opposites. Sometimes you need both. Lyra turned to him. Thank you for what you said. About me having value even if I did nothing. No one has ever said anything like that to me before. It is true. You do not have to earn your value, Lyra. You have it just by existing. Everything else you do is a gift, not a requirement. She took his hand and held it tight. 6 months ago, she was waiting in a rejection hall, convinced her life was over. Now she sat under alien stars with a man who saw her as whole, in a home where she belonged on a world that welcomed her. I love you, she said. The words surprised her as much as they surprised him. But they were true. Jiho smiled, his eyes shining. I love you too. I think I have for a while now. I was just waiting for the right moment to say it. Is this the right moment? Every moment with you is right. They sat together as the stars wheeled overhead, two people from different worlds who had found each other against impossible odds. And somewhere in the house, two children slept peacefully, dreaming of the family they had become. The transport ship landed on New Haven on a clear morning. Lyra sat in her floating chair near the exit ramp, her hands gripping the armrests so tightly her knuckles hurt. She had never been this nervous. Not during university exams, not during the accident. This was different. This was her entire future waiting outside that door. What if Jiho took one look at her in person and realized he made a mistake? What if his children were frightened of her? What if she could not adapt to this strange human colony? What if she failed at the one last chance she had? The door opened. Bright sunlight poured in. The ramp extended. Lyra took a deep breath and guided her chair down the ramp. At the bottom, a small group waited. She recognized Jiho immediately from their video calls. He stood with his hands clasped in front of him, looking nervous. Beside him were two small children. Before Lyra could say anything, the little girl ran forward. She had dark hair and 2 braids and carried a bunch of flowers. They were synthesized flowers, the kind made in colony food processors, but they were colorful and pretty. Welcome, the girl said loudly, holding up the flowers. I am Hana. I made you these. Lyra stared at the child. No one had ever run toward her before. Everyone always kept their distance, uncomfortable with her chair, with her difference. But this little girl just smiled and held out flowers like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Thank you," Lyra said softly, taking the flowers. Her voice shook a little. The small boy, Minho, came forward more shyly. He held up a piece of paper. It was a drawing of stick figures. 4 of them. One was in what looked like a floating chair with silver and blue coloring. "That is you," Minho said, pointing at the figure in the chair. "That is our family now." Lyra looked at the drawing. In all her life, no one had ever drawn her as part of their family. She had to blink hard to keep from crying right there on the landing pad. Jiho stepped forward. "Welcome to New Haven, Lyra. We are glad you are here." The first few days were overwhelming. Everything about human culture was different from what Lyra knew. Valorians valued quiet, order, and personal space. Humans seemed to value noise, chaos, and constant physical contact. The children were always touching her. Hana held her hand while they walked. Minho climbed onto her chair to show her his toys. At first, Lyra froze every time. Valorians did not touch casually. Touch was formal, ritualized. But the children did not know that. They just wanted to be close to her. Meals were another challenge. In Valorian culture, people ate in silence, focusing on the food. But human meals were loud. Everyone talked at once. Hana told stories about school. Minho made sound effects with his mouth. Jiho asked questions and laughed at the children's jokes. Lyra did not know where to look or what to say. She ate quietly while chaos happened around her. The house itself was smaller than what Lyra was used to, but it was warm. There were pictures on every wall. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys were scattered on the floor. It was messy and lived in, and completely different from the sterile, organized spaces of Valorian homes. Jiho tried to make things easier. He showed her how the food processor worked, how the cleaning systems functioned, how to adjust the temperature in her room. He gave her space when she needed it and helped when she struggled. But Lyra could see the exhaustion in his eyes. He worked long hours, took care of 2 children, and now had a new person to worry about. She was adding to his burden, just like she feared. The worst moment came on her 4th night. Minho woke up crying from a nightmare. Lyra heard him from her room. She wanted to help, but her room was down a hallway from his. Even with the ramps Jiho had installed, it would take her minutes to reach the boy's room. Minutes where he would be scared and alone. She felt completely helpless. This was exactly what she feared. She could not even comfort a frightened child. What kind of mother figure could she be if she could not reach a child who needed her? Lyra heard quick footsteps. Hana appeared in the hallway in her pajamas. The girl looked into Lyra's room. "Minho had a bad dream," Hana said simply. "Can you help?" "I cannot get there quickly enough," Lyra said, her voice tight with frustration. "Yes, you can. Just come. I will wait with him." Hana ran back to her brother's room. Lyra guided her chair as fast as it would go down the hallway. When she reached Minho's room, Hana was sitting on the bed holding her brother's hand. "See? I told you she would come," Hana said to Minho. Lyra floated her chair next to the bed. She did not know what to do. She had never comforted a child before. But Minho reached for her and she took his small hand in hers. "What was your dream about?" she asked gently. "Monsters," Minho whispered. "Monsters are not real," Lyra said. Then she thought about it. "Or if they are very far away. Would you like to know something?" Minho nodded. "On my world we have a saying. The stars watch over us while we sleep. Every star is like a guardian keeping the monsters away. Should we count some stars together?" She pointed out the window where stars were visible in the night sky. She started naming them, making up stories about each one. Minho listened, his crying stopping. Even Hana stayed to listen. When Minho finally fell back asleep, Hana looked at Lyra seriously. "You came when we needed you. That is what moms do." Something broke open in Lyra's chest. This child was teaching her what family meant. Not perfection, not independence, just being there when someone needed you. Over the next weeks, things slowly got easier. Lyra learned to accept the noise and chaos. She learned that Hana liked having her hair braided before school, and that Minho needed his special blanket at bedtime. She learned that Jiho took his coffee hot in the morning, and that he liked talking about his work. She also started contributing in ways she had not expected. Jiho mentioned problems with the colony's energy distribution system. Lyra looked at the schematics and immediately saw inefficiencies. She had studied quantum energy systems. She knew how to optimize power flow. If you adjust the quantum field harmonics here and here, she explained, pointing at the holographic display, you can increase efficiency by at least 30%. Jiho stared at the calculations she had done. Can you teach me how this works? Of course, word spread. The colony engineers heard that Jiho's new wife was solving problems they had struggled with for months. They asked for her help. Soon Lyra was consulting on multiple projects. She worked from home, her mind finally engaged again after years of feeling useless. She also started teaching. Hana brought friends over after school, and Lyra helped them with math homework. The children were fascinated by her and her floating chair. They asked questions. She answered them honestly. Soon she had a small group of students who came twice a week to learn about science and stars. One evening, Jiho came home to find Lyra floating in the backyard with both children. They were looking at the stars through a small telescope Taiyang had lent them. That one is called Sirius, Lyra was saying. It is actually 2 stars orbiting each other. They look like one from here, but they are dancing around each other in space. Like dancing partners? Hana asked. Exactly like dancing partners. Jiho stood in the doorway and watched. Minho was sitting in Lyra's lap, something he did often now. Hana was leaning against the chair. They looked like a family. They looked right together. Lyra turned and saw him watching. She smiled, and Jiho smiled back. It was not love yet. It was too soon for that. But it was something. It was possibility. It was the beginning of something real. That night after the children were in bed, Jiho and Lyra sat together on the back porch. The stars were bright above them. Thank you, Lyra said quietly. For what? For giving me a chance when no one else would. Jiho shook his head. You gave us a chance too. You came to a strange world and tried to make it work. That took courage. I was terrified. So was I. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Lyra said something she had been thinking about for days. Your children are teaching me that worth is not about perfection. It is about showing up. About trying. About being there even when it is hard. They are smart kids, Jiho said with a smile. They learned it from you. Jiho did not know what to say to that, so he just reached over and took Lyra's hand. She did not pull away. They sat together under the stars, 2 broken people who were slowly becoming whole. Lyra was sorting through her few belongings when the notification came through. She had 12 days left before transfer to the labor colony. She was trying to decide what to bring and what to leave behind. Not that she had much. Most of her possessions had been sold to pay medical bills. The notification made a soft chime. She almost ignored it. Notifications from the bride program were always rejections. Always the same polite, cold words telling her she was not good enough. But something made her look. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the fact that she had nothing left to lose. The message was different this time. Match accepted. Video conference scheduled in 1 hour. Lyra stared at the words. Accepted. Someone had accepted her match. After 147 rejections, someone had said yes. Her hands shook as she opened the full notification. Park Jiho, human, age 37. Widower with 2 children. Agricultural engineer. From New Haven Colony, there had to be a mistake. No one accepted her, especially not after seeing her medical status and her rejection count. She checked the message again and again, but it was real. 1 hour. She had 1 hour to prepare for a video call with the human who had either made a mistake or was playing a cruel joke. Lyra cleaned herself up as best she could. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her skin. She positioned her floating chair in front of the communication screen. Her heart pounded. She had been through this before. The initial video calls with potential matches. They always ended the same way. The person on the other end would see her, realize what they had agreed to, and find a polite way to back out. The screen activated. A man appeared. He had kind eyes and dark hair with a few gray strands. He wore a simple work uniform. Behind him, she could see a modest home with children's drawings on the walls. Hello, he said in accented but clear common language. I am Jiho, you are Lyra? Yes. Her voice came out quieter than she intended. There must be some mistake. Did you read my full profile? I did. And you saw the medical information? The rejection count? You understand I am paralyzed? Jiho nodded slowly. I saw everything. I read your essay 3 times. Lyra did not know what to say to that. No one had ever mentioned her essay before. You wrote about quantum theory, Jiho continued, about how particles exist in multiple states until someone observes them. I do not fully understand it, but it sounded beautiful. You wrote about teaching and about stars. You wrote about believing in kindness. Those things do not matter, Lyra said bitterly. I cannot walk. I cannot do most physical tasks. I have debt. I have been rejected 147 times. Why would you accept me? Because I did not ask for someone who could walk, Jiho said simply. I asked for someone who values family. Someone kind. Someone who could love children. Your essay told me you are all of those things. Lyra felt tears forming in her eyes. You do not understand. Valorian culture values perfection. I am broken. I will be a burden to you and your children. You should choose someone else. Someone whole. You are not broken, Jiho said firmly. You are injured. Those are different things. Your mind works. Your heart works. You can think and feel and care about others. That is not broken. I cannot even stand, Lyra whispered. My daughter cannot reach the top shelf. My son cannot tie his shoes yet. I cannot speak Valorian. We all have things we cannot do. That does not make us broken. It makes us people who need each other. Lyra stared at him. She had never heard anyone speak like this. In her world, limitations were shameful. They were things to hide or fix or remove from society. But this human spoke about them like they were just normal parts of life. Why? She asked. Why do you really want this? Is it because you feel sorry for me? No. I want this because my daughter drew a picture of our family with an empty space for a mother. I want this because my son asks about the woman in photographs but has no memories of her. I want this because I am tired and lonely and I think maybe you are too. I want this because the program said we are 98% compatible on what matters. And I believe that. What if I cannot adjust to human culture? What if your children do not like me? What if I fail? Jiho smiled for the first time. What if you succeed? What if my children love you? What if you teach them about stars and quantum theory? What if we become a real family? They talked for 2 hours. Jiho told her about his work with hydroponic systems. Lyra explained some of the quantum principles she had studied. He told her about Hana's love of drawing and Minho's obsession with building blocks. She told him about the stars visible from Terral Prime and how she used to map constellations. It was the longest conversation Lyra had with anyone in months. Jiho did not treat her like she was fragile or pitiful. He asked her opinions about things. He listened when she talked about her studies. He laughed at a joke she made about Valorian food. When the call ended, Lyra sat in the dark for a long time. She did not know if she should hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope hurt when it was taken away. The news of the acceptance spread quickly. On Terral Prime, Lyra's family could not believe it. Her mother called, crying with relief and confusion. A human accepted you? Are you sure this is real? The Valorian program authorities investigated. They contacted Jiho directly to make sure he understood what he was agreeing to. They sent him detailed medical reports. They warned him about cultural incompatibilities. They did everything they could to make him change his mind. Jiho did not change his mind. On New Haven, the reaction was mixed. Some colony members thought Jiho was making a huge mistake. Elder Kim visited him with concerns. She is paralyzed, Jiho. How will you manage 2 children and a wife who needs assistance? The same way I manage everything else, Jiho said. One day at a time. The cultural differences will be enormous. Valorians are very different from humans. Then we will learn from each other. His friend Tai Yang supported him, but even Tai Yang had doubts. Are you sure you are not just doing this to have help with the children? That would not be fair to her. I am doing this because the program said we are compatible. Because I read her words and saw someone intelligent and kind who has been treated unfairly. Because I think we could be good for each other. Jiho spent the next 2 weeks preparing. He modified his home with ramps and support rails. He researched Valorian culture and customs. He learned basic phrases in her language. He explained to Hana and Minho that a new person would be joining their family. Will she be our new mama? Hana asked. She will be part of our family, Jiho said carefully. Whether she becomes like a mama will be up to her and up to you. We need to give her time and be kind to her. Does she really float in a chair? Minho asked with wide eyes. Yes, her legs do not work, so she uses a special chair to move around, just like how you use a step stool to reach the sink. That is cool, Minho decided. Hana was more thoughtful. Will she like us? I think so, Jiho said. But remember, she is coming to a new world far from her home. She will be scared and everything will be strange. We need to be patient and help her feel welcome. Hana nodded seriously. Then she went to her room and started drawing a welcome picture. The night before Lyra was scheduled to arrive, Jiho lay in bed and wondered if he was doing the right thing. He had taken a chance on someone everyone else rejected. He was bringing an alien woman into his children's lives. He was gambling with their happiness and his own. But then he thought about Lyra's essay, about someone who still believed in kindness even after the universe had been cruel to her, about someone who still loved stars even though she could not reach them. Maybe that was the kind of person his children needed to see. Maybe that was the kind of person he needed beside him. He fell asleep hoping he was right. Park Jiho woke up at 5 in the morning, just like he did every day. The dome habitat was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. He lay in bed for a moment looking at the empty space beside him. 3 years, and he still reached for Suji sometimes when he first woke up. 3 years, and it still hurt. He got up and started the morning routine. Check the children's rooms first. Hana was 7 now, sprawled across her bed with her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. Minho was 4, curled up in a ball with his blanket kicked to the floor. Jiho picked up the blanket and covered his son gently. The boy did not even stir. In the kitchen, Jiho started the food processor and made breakfast. Rice, vegetables, and protein mix, the same thing they ate most mornings because it was cheap and filling. New Haven was a good colony, but money was always tight, especially for a single father working one job and trying to raise 2 children alone. He worked as an agricultural engineer, managing the colony's hydroponic systems. The work was important. Without the systems, the colony could not grow enough food to survive. But the hours were long and the pay was just enough to cover their basic needs. There was never extra for treats or toys or the things he saw other children enjoying. The hardest part was not the money or the work. It was the loneliness in his children's eyes. Hana had started asking questions last month. Why don't we have a mama like other families? She asked it casually while they were eating dinner. But Jiho saw the sadness behind the question. He tried to explain that her mother loved them very much but got sick and had to go away. Hana nodded and did not ask again, but he saw her watching other families at the colony gatherings. He saw how she looked at mothers holding their daughters' hands. Minho was too young to really understand. He had only been 1 when Suji died. Sometimes he asked about the woman in the photos on the wall, and Jiho told him stories. But Minho had no real memories of his mother. That made it better in some ways and worse in others. Jiho finished preparing breakfast and woke the children. They ate together at the small table in their kitchen. Hana talked about school and a new friend she made. Minho dropped rice on the floor and laughed. Normal morning sounds in a house that felt too quiet. After breakfast, Jiho dropped the children at the colony school and went to work. His friend Taeyang was already in the hydroponics bay, checking nutrient levels in the grow tanks. You look tired, Taeyang said. I am always tired, Jiho replied, but he smiled. They worked together in comfortable silence for a while. Taeyang was also a widower, though his children were grown and lived on Earth. He understood what Jiho was going through in a way most people did not. During lunch break, they sat in the small break room. Taeyang pulled out his tablet and showed Jiho something. Have you thought any more about what Elder Kim suggested? Elder Kim Nari was the colony matchmaker. She was also one of the people who helped settle disputes and organize community events. 2 weeks ago, she had approached Jiho about the Interstellar Bride program. Many colonies used it to help balance population and bring in new people with useful skills. Some men on New Haven had married women from Earth. Others had married women from different alien species. I do not know, Jiho said honestly. The children need stability. What if I bring someone here and it does not work out? What if she cannot adjust? What if she leaves? What if it does work out? Taeyang asked. What if you find someone who makes your family whole again? Jiho did not have an answer for that. He had loved Suji deeply. The idea of bringing another woman into his life felt strange, almost like a betrayal. But then he thought about Hana's question. He thought about how his daughter needed a mother's love. He thought about how tired he was, trying to be everything for 2 children while working full-time. That evening, after he picked up the children and made dinner and helped Hana with homework and gave Minho a bath, he sat down at his desk. Hannah had left a drawing there. She often drew pictures and left them for him to find. This one was titled My Family in her careful handwriting. She had drawn herself, Minho, and him, and there was a fourth figure, just an outline, with a question mark above it. Underneath, Hannah had written, Mom? Jiho stared at the drawing for a long time. His daughter was asking for something he did not know how to give. But maybe he could try. He pulled up the Interstellar Bride program application on his tablet. The forms were long and detailed. They asked about his job, his home, his interests, his family situation. They asked what kind of partner he was looking for. Jiho was honest in his answers. He wrote that he was a widower with 2 young children. He wrote that he worked long hours but always made time for his family. He wrote about his small home on the edge of the colony and his simple life. When it asked what qualities he wanted in a match, he thought carefully. He did not care about appearance. He did not care about species or background. He wrote only one thing: someone who values family above everything else. Someone kind, someone who will love my children. He submitted the application before he could change his mind. 3 days later, he got a message from the program coordinator, Choi Doyun. There was a match, a high compatibility match based on core values and personality. But there were complications. Jiho agreed to meet with Doyun in person. They sat in a small office in the colony administration building. Doyun pulled up a holographic profile and Jiho saw a young woman with blue skin and silver markings. A Valorian. Her name is Lyra, Doyun said. She is 24 years old, highly educated in quantum engineering. The compatibility algorithm gave you both a 98% match on values. So what are the complications? Jiho asked. Doyun looked uncomfortable. She is paralyzed from the waist down. She uses a floating mobility chair. She also has significant debt from medical expenses, and she has been rejected by 147 other candidates in the program. Jiho looked at the profile. There was a photo of Lyra sitting in her chair. She looked sad, like she expected rejection. There was an essay attached to the profile. Jiho started reading it. She wrote about quantum theory and teaching and stargazing. She wrote about believing in kindness. The words were smart and hopeful and a little bit heartbreaking. Does her paralysis affect her mind? Jiho asked. No, she is fully cognitive and intelligent. The injury was only to her spine. Can she communicate normally? Form relationships? Yes, of course. Jiho read more of the essay. She sounded like someone who had lost everything but still tried to find beauty in the universe. She sounded like someone who understood pain but had not let it make her cruel. I will accept the match, Jiho said. Doyun blinked. I do not think you understand. She cannot walk. She will need assistance with many daily tasks. And she is alien. The cultural differences alone. I understand, Jiho said firmly. She is educated. She is intelligent. She values family and kindness. That is what I asked for. Her legs do not change those things. Doyun stared at him. No one has ever accepted her. Are you certain? Jiho looked at the photo again. At the sad eyes and the glowing rejection bracelet. He thought about Hannah's drawing. He thought about how his daughter needed to see that worth came from who someone was inside, not what they looked like outside. I am certain, he said. Please arrange the meeting. Lyra sat in the cold metal chair and stared at her reflection in the dark window. Her blue skin looked almost gray in the harsh lighting of the rejection hall. The silver markings that ran down her arms, once a source of pride, now felt like decorations on something broken. She could see other Valorian women in the hall, all waiting like her, but they could walk. They could stand. They had hope. Her floating chair hummed softly beneath her. It kept her upright and moved when she thought about moving, but it could not change what everyone saw when they looked at her. A paralyzed woman, a burden, someone no one wanted. The accident happened 2 years ago. Lyra was 22 then, studying quantum engineering at the best university on Terral Prime. She had dreams of designing faster ships, of making travel between stars easier. Then the transport malfunctioned during a routine trip. Metal twisted. Systems failed. When she woke up in the medical facility, she could not feel her legs. The doctors said the damage was permanent. Her spine was crushed in a way their technology could not fix. Everything changed after that. Her friends stopped visiting. Her professors suggested she leave the program. Her family looked at her with a mixture of pity and shame. In Valorian society, physical perfection mattered. The strong married the strong. The beautiful married the beautiful. The disabled were sent away to work in facilities where no one had to see them. Lyra's family was not wealthy. The medical bills drained everything they had. Her father worked 3 jobs. Her mother sold their home and moved them to a smaller unit on the edge of the colony. Still, it was not enough. Someone suggested the Interstellar Bride program. Families used it to make connections across worlds, to improve their status, to pay off debts. Lyra's mother cried when she suggested it. But what choice did they have? For 6 months, Lyra had been in the program. Her profile went out to hundreds of potential matches across 3 different alien species. She tried to be hopeful at first. She included information about her education, her skills with quantum mathematics, her love of stargazing. But every profile also showed her medical status. Every image showed the floating chair. 147 rejections. Each one came with a message that was polite but clear. Not compatible. Seeking different qualities. Family situation not suitable. Lyra knew what they really meant. No one wanted a wife who could not walk. No one wanted to take care of someone broken. The bracelet on her wrist tracked every rejection. Each one made a small red light appear. Now her bracelet glowed like a warning beacon. Other women in the hall looked at her bracelet and then looked away quickly. They knew what those lights meant. They knew she was the woman no one chose. A program coordinator walked through the hall, her heels clicking on the floor. She stopped in front of Lyra and pulled up a holographic display. "Miss Lyra, we need to discuss your situation." Lyra nodded. She knew what was coming. The program gives each participant 6 months to find a match. Your time is almost up. In 2 weeks, if you have no acceptance, you will be transferred to Labor Colony 7. Labor Colony 7. Lyra had heard about it. Disabled people worked there as servants, doing simple tasks for barely enough credits to survive. It was where Valorian society sent people it did not want to see. "I understand," Lyra said softly. The coordinator looked uncomfortable. "There is one more option. A human colony called New Haven has recently joined the program. They are accepting applications. Humans." Lyra had heard of them. Most Valorians considered humans primitive. They were emotional, loud, and used older technology. They had only been traveling between stars for a few decades. Why would humans want Valorian brides? They have a shortage of women in their colonies. Some of their settlements are new and mostly male. They are less particular about certain things. The coordinator paused. They do not have the same standards we do. Lyra understood. Humans would accept brides other species rejected. It was insulting in a way. But Lyra was past caring about insults. Will they accept someone like me? I do not know. But it is your only remaining option. Should I submit your profile? Lyra looked down at her hands. They still worked perfectly. Her mind still worked. She could still solve equations that would make most people dizzy. But none of that mattered to anyone here. Maybe it would not matter to humans either. Maybe she would be rejected 148 times. But what did she have to lose? "Submit it," she said. The coordinator nodded and walked away. Lyra was alone again with her glowing bracelet and her floating chair. She looked out the window at the stars beyond the colony. Somewhere out there was a human settlement. Somewhere out there was her last chance. She thought about the essay she had written for her profile. She had been honest in it, perhaps too honest. She wrote about quantum theory and how the universe was full of possibilities that existed simultaneously until someone observed them. She wrote about wanting to teach someday, about missing her studies, about how she still loved looking at stars even though everything else had fallen apart. She wrote that she still believed kindness existed in the universe, even though she had not seen much of it lately. It was probably a foolish essay. No one wanted to hear about quantum theory or kindness. They wanted to know if she could manage a household, if she could bear children, if she could stand at parties and make them look good. She could do none of those things, but the essay was honest. It was the one thing she could still give. The truth of who she was, even if who she was would never be enough. Lyra touched the controls on her chair and floated toward the exit. She had 2 weeks. 2 weeks to hear if even one human would take a chance on the woman with 147 red lights on her bracelet. 2 weeks before she disappeared into a labor colony and became invisible forever. As she moved through the corridor, she passed a window with a view of space. She stopped and looked at the distant stars. They were beautiful and cold and far away. Just like Hope, but they were still there. Still shining, maybe that had to be enough.